Welcome everyone to the Mission SnowGLOBE webinar. And this webinar is for educators and GLOBE partners. And we wanted to start with this one because we figure that educators and partners might have some questions before we bring on the students. So I am going to be talking not very much about the mission itself and the science behind that mission. Instead, I'm really going to focus on the protocols and making sure you know what you need to do and how this fits into the GLOBE protocols that you may already know about. So that's what I'm going for. Let's see. Okay, so what is Mission SnowGLOBE? This was super exciting. This is like the stuff of fairy tales, where there was an idea months ago in September about GLOBE teachers and the impacts NASA mission, seeing if we could work together. And then all of a sudden, within 4 days, I think this all happened. So we're hoping that you're as excited about it as we are. It's a partnership with the NASA Investigation of Microphysics and Precipitation for Atlantic Coast Threatening Snowstorms. So it is a very cool mission where they are flying planes during snowstorms, and they are collecting a whole range of data. There's a ton of data on the website, and each year of the mission gets its own kind of field catalog. And then the other things that happen with this is on those pages, it also has a daily science plan. So as a former high school teacher, I thought that was really cool to see. And over the 2 months, we'll kind of introduce you to those pieces of the website. We'll let you know when they posted a really cool science plan for the day. But if you go on the mission page, it'll say like the science plan of the day is to check this particular instrumentation or to check the flights. And so for kids, it really brings to me the idea that science is about taking notes and making observations, right? And coming up with a field plan and then recording that field plan. So I think it's really neat that they're sharing all of this information with us and making it really obvious how science is being done. So we are going to be collecting the snow measurements during snow events and then uploading the data to the GLOBE website. The principal investigator for the impacts team is going to join us next week at 1 o'clock Eastern. And she is going to be sharing the science behind the mission and some of the other information that they've collected for the past 2 years. There has been, we've started some discussions about what other things she can provide. So she's very willing to mentor students that may be doing research projects around this. And those projects then could be submitted to the International Virtual Science Symposia or to the US GLOBE Regional Student Research Symposia, which will be taking place in person this spring. So that's a really exciting piece that you may be mentored by members of the impacts team. The other thing is she talked about ways to interact with the pilots. So if you have any students that are super excited about flying, they would be able to talk to the pilots about flying through snowstorms, and then also talking to the scientists as they're flying missions. So who can participate? When I started seeing who was coming on board, I was super excited because we have representation from a lot of different states. So what you'll see is they are flying out of 2 different NASA centers, and the areas are in, basically the areas that we're collecting the data in are these particular areas. And if you look at some of these, it's the number of hours is how many hours they get of flight time. So those are the particular ranges, and they're looking for data within that snowstorm when they're flying the mission. But they were very excited to hear that we could do our snowboard measurements, and they are the standard ones where we're doing it within and recording within a 24-hour period. If you'd like to record more than that, I think they would be happy about that as well. So what happens when I sign up? We do have a form for you to sign up. This form, and this is our standard, I just want to let you know, we will not be using the information in that form for any other data collection except for your name, email, location, so that we can, we won't be spamming you after this, is what I'm saying. This is just a short-term data form so that you can register for the mission, and then we'll be communicating about the mission using this particular sign-up form, the information that you let us know. You're going to be alerted through our SnowGLOBE community throughout 48 hours notice of a snow event. So when we hear, and you can start to get excited, if there's going to be snow, if they're flying the mission, then we're going to let you know 48 hours in advance. So you will have essentially 2 days to prepare. As a teacher, former teacher, I was thinking, okay, so if you tell me on Friday that there's a snow event, I'm going to have to move very quickly in order to collect the data. So we're going to talk about the data collection in a minute, but just know, keep in mind the 48 hours notice. Some people might be curious how many times they'll be alerted. From what I saw last year, there were about 14 snow events. So you could potentially be alerted 14 times within the 2 months. Who knows what snow events we're going to have this year? There could be 7, there could be, 14, who knows? We are also going to have a Remind app. So I don't know, some schools use these, some schools use Remind already. And so if you're not familiar with it, it is a way for you to register your phone number so that you can get a text message when there's going to be a snow event. So we'll send it out, email, but if you also want to get a text message, we're going to set that up as a classroom. And so you can just get a text message to your phone. So it really depends on which way you want to be alerted. Okay, so during the snow event, you and your students collect snow data and you upload your data to Globe. I'm going to stop right now and see if there's any questions or if you have any comments right now.
I have a question.
Yes.
With the current snowstorm, are they currently flying in it? Because we don't have school tomorrow in New York.
No, they, as far as I know, they are not flying. I happen to know that the PI, the principal investigator, is actually at AGU, a big conference in Chicago right now. So if they're flying, then, but the mission is January, February. I know they're missing out on this big storm though. I did use the opportunity, because we were talking about a snow day for tomorrow, and I did use the opportunity to recruit people, because I'm like, this could be fun. Do something good with your snow day.
Jennifer, this is Nate. How you doing?
Oh, hey, Nate, how are you?
Good. So being in New Mexico, they won't be flying missions over New Mexico, am I correct?
That is correct, Nate. You'll have to wait for the next snow event and the next mission, I think.
Okay.
But you can still look at the data.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And we welcome you to follow along from New Mexico.
Yeah, we got some snow days. We got Had 2 days of snow days in the school.
Awesome. Yeah. So what we're going to do though is we're going to be looking at these data. So not only will the scientists from Impacts be looking at the data, but we're also hoping to, you know, basically do some publications or blog posts about what we're seeing and the data from the students. So hopefully we'll be aligning that. So if you want to do the New Mexico this winter, that would be great because we can include you in our analysis. Okay, so what data will we be collecting? We're collecting snowpack, snow depth, snow water equivalent. We also, and I think that the PI will talk about this, Dr. McMurdy will talk about this next week, pictures of snow crystals. So she's really interested, and she was describing to me that what you do is you basically put out your arm and you catch a snowflake on your arm, and you very quickly take a picture of what that snowflake looks like. So she would love to have those pictures as well, and we'll be sending out some additional information about that. And then cloud measurements. So if you're already doing cloud measurements, you can add those in. And she was also really excited if there could be more cloud measurements from GLOBE students. Snow pH is not necessary to this effort. But Sarah does put in here that snow pH would be good for student projects along with other data. So that is very true. I'd want to just acknowledge that where these next couple slides come from is from the protocol training slides. And this is the precipitation snow one. So you receive that link in the email. We'll follow up with that. But if you find these slides helpful, they are available for you to download and then to use those slides when you're helping your students try and understand what they're doing. First step is to define your study site. And we would really welcome you to do this step before the flights start in January. So you can do this with the Globe Observer app. And there is a way, so what you're gonna do is log in as a Globe teacher, and then you will have access to the atmosphere data entry, which is separate from the 4 Globe Observer protocols that are right on that front page. So once you log in as a Globe teacher, those particular groups of protocols and data entry sheets will come up. So use that to define your study site before. So what you're going to do is you're going to find a location on your school site or wherever you're going to collect these data, and you're going to define that site. And if you look over in the chat, Haley is putting links to all of these things in there. The next thing is to collect your materials. So again, we encourage you to do this before the flights start in January, before we get our first 48-hour notification. The snowboard is a certain size. I believe it's 40 centimeters by 40 centimeters, and you need to paint it white. So if you don't have that, it's a piece of plywood. It's cut 40 centimeters by 40 centimeters and paint it white. You're going to need a little while for that to actually dry. And we want it painted white. Why? You can write it in the chat or somebody can say it. Why is it white? And it's not so students will trip over it. Think about the sun hitting other colors.
I was going to say, I'm teaching about this right now. If the sun hits a dark colored surface, it's going to warm up and then the snow is going to melt when it hits it.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to have it be white. Then you want to have a meter stick in case you get the deep snow. You might want to have a smaller ruler in case you don't get the deep snow. Then you want your straight-sided container And we suggest that you use your precipitation gauge, that outer container for the precipitation gauge. And then the sampling jars, a container for snowpack rain equivalent sample, and then you need something to slide underneath your inverted containers. And then you'll need some labels are helpful. So the snowboard directions, Haley put that in there as well in the link so that you can see what those look like. You can use either the data sheet or the Globe Observer app. Again, it's a convenience. If you want to do this on the data sheet, that is completely fine. You can definitely do that, or you can use the Globe Observer app. So for snowpack, any questions so far? And I'm trusting that if you do have questions that you'll put them in the chat, and then, or we can discuss afterwards. Okay, so collecting snowpack. Difference between snowpack and snowfall. So a snowpack is the snow that's already on the ground and then the new stuff. So you're going to put your measuring stick into the snow till it rests on the ground. And then you're going to record that to the nearest millimeter. If it's not measurable, you pick trace, and then you need to measure it 2 more times. And you're going to look for places. Don't look along the fence lines, the snow fences, right? Because that's where it's going to be drifting snow. So you want to look for where it is pretty much flat and you're not going to get drifts, and that is more representative of the snow that you're getting. All right, measuring snow depth. You're going to use the ruler. We recommend the ruler on the left because that one starts at 0 on the edge, because again, you're going to stick your ruler into the ground. So if you're going to have to account for those couple centimeters or millimeters if you don't use the ruler, if you use the ruler on the right. So it is best if you have a ruler like the one on the left. Reading the ruler, you're going to read it to the nearest millimeter. And after that, you're going to do your new snowfall. Your new snowfall is the stuff that goes on the snowboard. So you basically are going to measure the snow. So you're going to put the ruler down into the snow until it touches the snowboard. And again, you're reading and recording that to the nearest millimeter. If there's no new snow, then please record a 0. This is another FYI. If you get rain, if you are in a place that gets rain, they want that data too. So if instead, if you are in, for instance, sadly enough, if you're in Virginia and you get rain during one of our snow events, they still want your rain data. I know you may want snow, but so you can definitely do that as well, rain or snow, any snow during the snow event and during the flights.
What about ice? Because sometimes we get ice.
Yeah, I think that's going to have to be metadata, because I think they want. We should ask Lynn that next week. I'm not sure what we're going to do about the ice or if they want that. So we should ask her that next week for sure. So let's make a note of that. Good question, Kristen. That was Kristen, right?
Yeah, that was because, well, I think it was just rain for me here, but they were like, we were right on the line of where it could be ice, or I don't think they were ever saying any snow. I think it was just going to be ice or rain. And where I am in Greenbelt was kind of right on the edge, and we only ended up really getting rain.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Well, we should definitely ask what we should do about the ice, because we get ice too. Let's see. Yes. So Haley's asking me when we should take the measurement. So what you want to do is you want to take these measurements after 24 hours. So to be consistent, if we all take it around 1 hour of solar noon, and then you, so you have your snowboard out, and then you would record within 1 hour of solar noon. And that's what I told Dr. McMurdy, that's when we would be taking the measurements. So she seemed very happy with that. We can check with her for sure next week, but that's what how the protocol is written. Okay, so if the snowfall is so small that a depth can't be read, you record the letter as trace again. And then if there's snow on the snowboard, but it's been disturbed, you can report M for missing. Or if there was snow and by the time you actually recorded it, it has melted, you can do M for missing. If you don't get to record within 24 hours, you can say the amount of snow that is on that snowboard and the snowpack, and you're going to record the number of days since the last reading of snow on the snowboard. So if you leave your snowboard out on a Friday and you don't get to record until Monday, then you can record, and that's totally fine. So we do know that many of you might not be able to go back to school over the weekend, or if you have a snow event, school might be canceled. So you're just going to record the number of days since you last read that. And yes, Mike, you would do it at the same time as the precipitation measurement. Okay, so for new snow and snowpack water equivalent, she was really excited that we do this measurement. You take your overflow tube and you basically place it upside down, and then you'll see in this diagram, they're putting a piece of cardboard or something underneath so that you can capture the snow and keep it in the gauge or in the container, that snow. And you flip it back upside down and you take it inside. So those are the two samples that you would take. You would take one from the snowboard, and then you would take one from your snowpack. Let's see. Now the next thing is you're going to clear off your snowboard and you're going to move it to a new place. If you're going to get snow again, you want to place your flag or other marker nearby so you can find where your snowboard is. Because if you're moving it around several times for several days, several snow events, you may lose it. And then you're going to take your samples inside to melt and measure. Once your snow samples are indoors, you allow them to melt, cover them up to prevent evaporation. And you pour your melted water into the rain gauge so that you can get the rain equivalent in millimeters. Let's see. And then that's essentially it, unless you are doing pH. Then you enter your precipitation data into the GLOBE website. You're going to do the live data entry or the GLOBE Observer app for that. So we do have some pictures on what that looks like. And here's what it looks like on the GLOBE website. So why are my data important? We're looking at the year-to-year variation in snow cover, predicting water available from a snow melt, improving your forecasting. And in terms of this mission, they're looking at microphysics, which we're going to wait until next week to have a definition of that. And then key processes of how snowstorms form and evolve. Okay, so super excited about this. How will you collect data during a snow day? What are your ideas? Throw them in the chat.
I have a question about the rain gauge really quick, sorry.
Yeah.
Why is it that, because I have that clear rain gauge that you showed in the pictures, but mine is mounted outside. Why is it that I couldn't just make sure that the rain gauge is clear before the snow event and just let the rain gauge collect the precipitation?
So let the rain gauge, the clear big container, collect the snow.
With what? Yeah, I guess.
Uh,
Like the way it's mounted. Why can't it just collect the precipitation the way it normally collects it?
Haley?
So I'm just gonna read this actually right off of the e-training slides, because they have that same question in the FAQ. And it does say, unfortunately, this won't work because snow blows around too much to get an accurate measure of
Okay.
its depth using a rain gauge.
Okay.
And also, as Jen was saying, like you're gonna measure it multiple different places, an average, and you can't really do that in your rain gauge.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So yeah, I know it seems like it would make so much sense.
Well, and to be honest, Coco Ross, which uses the same rain gauge, does have you report what collects in the rain in that outer tube. But also then if you want to do depth, it's actually a different, you go somewhere else to do it. Either it's a snowboard to do the snow depth or snow water equivalent using the outside tube. So Coco Ross does actually have you report how much collects in that outer tube in addition to some of the other measurements that they're looking for here. But I think I've never actually done snow with Globe, to be honest. But it does seem logical.
I have a question about solar noon data collection. So and it kind of connects to the snow day. I had thought about like having one at my personal location, having a student leader, having one at their personal location, and then having one at the school. This way, if there's a snow day, we'll at least get the 2 personal locations. And then on a school day, the student leader can like lead a peer on doing it at the school. But if there is school, then we can't get the ones at our homes at solar noon. Because like I don't get home until 7 o'clock at night and my kids don't get home till after sports.
Yes. Okay, so that's a really, let's see. And
Snow day, we could do solar noon from our home locations, which is fine. But then we would just have the one sample site if there's not a snow day.
I'm trying to, oh, Mike, do you have an answer for that?
That was sort of why I was asking if you took it at the same time you were doing your precipitation measurement, as long as it's 24 hours between, right? So Tiffany, to your point, if they was always, even if it was after sports practice that they did it for that site, it would be the 24 hours. Because we've moved away, I think, unless I'm completely wrong, we've moved away from the solar noon for precipitation for a regular weather station.
Yes.
Okay, so they could like get home from sports at 5:30 and do their snow collection data, and we would still be able to use that data for that day.
You would just record the time as 5:30 instead of,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, good point. Yeah, so go with the 24 hours with those measurements. And so then I think that makes a lot of sense, because then they will be able to get the time. Everything is geolocated and the time of data collection. Those would be the important things. And you're right, Mike, we have gone away from solar noon, so totally works, I think. Other questions? And Todd, you put in here, what'd you put? Have students download and use the Globe app in advance, then they can use during a snow day. Yes, so you can assign your students student accounts. There may be some issues. I think that some of the things that have come up, and so you just probably want to check with your school about having students put in where they're collecting data with GPS measurements. there may be some privacy issues in different states. So you just may want to check into that. And Elizabeth, I have access to a 4-wheel drive and she's going to get there as long as you don't have a level 3 snow emergency. Wait, Elizabeth, where are you? I've never heard of a level 3. I will take my own observations, but take pictures to see if the students can read the meter stick. Awesome. Let's see. And Haley answered Sarah's question. You can use another straight-sided container to collect the snow. But the melted water is usually done still with a rain gauge. So you still need the rain gauge to measure that water. Oh, Elizabeth, you're in Toledo. Okay, so Ohio has levels. Sounds like John is collecting lots of different types. All right, any other ideas about how this is going to work for you? Or hopefully you're still excited about this. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. We have some additional resources for you. So there's a link here to the Globe e-training on snow precipitation. And then, Haley, do you want to explain this one? The map here?
Sure. Yeah, I was just looking for the link too to put in the chat. This is, I just stumbled across this. Well, actually, my dad stumbled across this and sent it to me. And it's a current snow depth map that's put out by the Forest Service using NOAA data. So it seems like it could be a really nice thing to use in parallel, and looking at the map in your location when there are snow events and seeing, do the data look similar or different, and having a conversation about that with students. And even for younger students, just working on looking at maps and understanding the data. So the darker colors are more snow and the lighter colors are less snow. So just a cool resource. You're still, yeah.
There we go. On our event page, we're going to put these links, and we will also put the links to this recording and to the PowerPoint, etc. So you'll have access to all of these pieces as the 2 months goes by. Okay, we would love, this is something that I was looking at earlier. We would love to have any literacy connections that you may know of. So if you have any storybooks that you use to read about snow, or if you have any sort of resources, we would love to put those on our event page so that we can share some of the things that you may be using in your classroom to introduce this activity or just to talk about snow. A lot of, especially elementary schools, are having a hard time working science in unless there's a literacy or math connection. So if there's something that's really valuable that you found valuable in teaching science that has links to those two subject areas, we would love them. Okay, so next week on December 22nd, 1 p.m. Eastern time, we have a webinar for educators and students with the principal investigator for this project to hear more about the science behind the mission. So she's going to be sharing some slides. She knows that students are invited, and so she'll be prepared for that and their questions. So please register for that. This was really just to kind of talk about the globe piece of it, but you'll get the bigger picture with her next week. And oh, we have some credits.